Alright, so here we go forward. Benefits of energetic realignment. This is what we do now. Coping behaviors that you take involuntarily are falling away. Putting my vinegar back into the vinegar. You are also not going to waste time and energy on this activity. You are also going to lose out on the energy you could have placed into skills or relationship that could have grown but didn't. And since growth compounds, you will lose out on the future growth, and this loss can be massive. How many times have you lost out on opportunities and lost out on a lot of money because of this? Question mark. When opportunity meets preparation, riches accumulate over time. But when preparation is missing, the opportunity is being passed up or cannot fully be leveraged. You are missing out on all of the compound growth that you could have had but didn't. And the negative behavior is suppressing your energy. So you are losing energy now, and you are losing the energy potential that you could have had in the future. It lowers your vibration, budges your positivity. All of these incremental improvements make a massive difference over the course of a lifetime into the future. It also lowers your belief, and it affects your relationships. Energetic imbalances are being discovered. Energetic sounds so elusive, but we all have different energies running through us. There is, for example, emotional energy. You know it when you are emotionally charged or when you feel emotionally empty. You know probably what the energy of sadness, defeat, or regret feels like, what anxiety feels like. These are emotional energies. Then there is mental energy. You probably know from a time in your life when you studied for an exam what it feels like to be mentally fatigued at the end of the day. So you may be feeling physically tired also, but it can be that your mental energy is depleted, but your body wants to move. Have you had that situation like that in your life? You know what sexual frustration feels like, and what sexual exhaustion or satiation feels like when you have had a lot. You know that being physically full of energy feels like opposed to physically tired. Even when you haven't felt physically full for a long time, you know that it is possible to feel this way because there are people who are full of life and others who are constantly tired. There is also creative energy. When you feel that you are not really creating anything in the work you do, people might find a creative outlet elsewhere. This can be fixing a car or cooking or something generally known as creative or art. When I say it like that, it makes sense, right? These energies need to be in movement. They need healthy expressions, which can also mean transmutation, meaning doing something else with this energy that is good for you. Chopping wood, exercise, singing, even shouting or cleaning up the things that annoy you are good expressions of anger. Sexual energy can be transmuted into creativity or exercise or making an effort to show your love in a non-sexual way. Mental energy can be used to ruminate, to beat yourself up or to plan, communicate, to read, etc. These energies need to be in balance. When they are not, we either find another outlet for these energies or they become suppressed and then other kinds of imbalances occur. Resolving the causes for these imbalances is a substantial part of my work. What are the causes? They can be beliefs of what is or isn't appropriate, what expressions or energy is or isn't in alignment with who you are, what had been rewarded earlier in life and what hasn't, etc. We also have emotional needs that, depending on what had been the filter for love, you can connect with these energies. When there are, for example, behaviors that our system has remembered as being effective in restoring an imbalance to balance, we are likely to go back to it. For example, when somebody wants to stop drinking or masturbating or eating donuts, etc., but due to this belief, etc., these energies are blocked so that the changes rise and rise. Eventually, the system will give in the form of loss of willpower. And then the behavior will occur again because the system remembers this behavior as a sure way to restore balance. For that reason, oftentimes, when we believe we need to overcome a behavior, what is often missing in order to sustain the change in behavior is to understand what it serves psychologically and energetically and rearrange the life circumstances so that there is no need for the behavior anymore. Then it still will take a conscious decision because even if a slight emotion comes up that is linked to your behavior, thoughts will appear that suggest doing the behavior or just one more time, etc. Our mind with that system is in continuous imbalance, and the imbalance is rising because we don't understand yet what is creating it. Our mind will find a way to justify what our system needs. More willpower is not the solution. Using the willpower is necessary, but will only be successful when the behavior is removed as the only way to restore balance or when the imbalance is resolved. This is what I call energetic realignment. We work in the seminar to realign your energies so that all of your energies flow into the right actions and directions that serve your ultimate purpose in life. That doesn't mean that all you do is only one-dimensional work. This can also mean spending these energies in a way that nurtures you and keeps you healthy and in balance. My work is centered around the principle of balance. Balance is not a static state of equilibrium. I understand balance as a pendulum rather. The lowest point where the pendulum would rest is the point of equilibrium. But in reality, life is movement. So it is the movement in and out of balance towards two extreme points. Alright, now let's take a look here at the content which we will create in my life here and now and forever. This is exactly what we can do. Exactly. This is exactly right. The motorbike, the additional property, some fishing rods, all kinds of stuff to just buy myself some more time in order to be able to like work, you know, and especially when the land sale goes through, that's gonna be like at least 12 months of just food and rent, and that's all I need right now. It's like I just gotta keep surviving and keep doing, because what I'm doing starts to work. I'm now at 100 subscribers on YouTube. I know to you that's laughable, but it is growing, and it will be growing at an accelerated rate. I just gotta keep going with it. That's growing. My LinkedIn is growing every week because I'm sending these connection requests, and the people that are coming back to me are of tremendous quality. And so for them, $100 is not much, but for me, it's like half, it's 40% of my rent. I'm like, there's gotta be a way to like bring value to people in a way that they are willing to like, I don't know, man, make like a deal so that people pay me like $100 per month or something. It's gotta be possible, right? And then with that, all I'm looking for is like improve my nutrition, because I train already in the way that I do, and that's almost all I gotta do is like fix my nutrition and then just keep going. I'm gonna find a wife, I'm attractive, I know how to relate, I know how to be funny, that's all not a problem at all. Inside and out of the bedroom, that's not a problem at all. I got all of the skills, down, that's not a problem, and that will come, and I'm in no rush with that. And even if I get married when I'm like 37, I'm like tremendously happy with that. That's completely fine with me, right? Let her be 24, 25, 26. That's decent. Still got plenty of time for 2 kids. It's easy. It's gonna be easy, right? But for now, we just gotta find a way to like get paid by some people to just cover rent and food. All right, here. Well, now that my drive is all nice and cleaned up, it's all really nice and beautiful, right? Everything is nice and clean. I'm organized. I know exactly what I'm doing. Coaching people, decoding human behavior, finding clarity, clarifying with people their outcomes, everything that they do. Right? So that I just have more time to go through the document and actually connecting people with each other. Right? Working on these outcomes, working on these projects, working on these leads. Yeah, maybe you didn't see the value. Maybe the value really wasn't there. But I will find a way to be valuable to people, for sure. I am valuable to people. Yes, speaking my dream life into existence. Yes, I am valuable to people. All right, YouTube. All right, here. So, okay. So, good content by myself. Exactly. All right. So, this is all my documents. It's all nicely cool and in order. This is the opus from March. All right. How unprofessional. Well, all right then. Well, all right. Life is like a pendulum. Balance. First article, doc. Alright, here. Cool. Alright, now we're here. And so, more willpower is not the solution. Using the willpower is necessary, but will only be successful when the behavior is removed as the only way to restore balance, or when the imbalance is resolved. This is what I call energetic realignment. We work in the seminar to realign your energies so that all of your energies flow into the right actions and directions that serve your ultimate purpose in life. That doesn't mean that all you do is only one-dimensional work. This can also mean spending these energies in a way that nurtures you, to keeps you healthy and in balance. My work is centered around the principle of balance, and balance is not a static state of equilibrium. I rather understand balance as a pendulum. The lowest point where the pendulum would rest is the point of equilibrium, but in reality, life is movement. So it is a movement in and out of balance towards the two extreme points. When we go too far out of balance, the invisible forces of life, these energies will not change. They are part of life. They are part of being human, just like gravity is an invisible force that you just got to learn how to adjust to, or else you're going to get hurt by life. Or else you're going to get hurt by your lack of understanding of how life works. So if you haven't built healthy ways to balance these energies, you will invariably be drawn to an unhealthy way. If you haven't found a way to let these energies flow into the activities that you want them to flow in and achieve balance, then that way they will go elsewhere to be balanced. And so when that is the case, or harshness towards somebody else who suffers from that is, what is helpful is giving understanding of how these dynamics work and real help in the way that I just explained. Balance. My work is centered around the principle of balance. Balance is not the static state of equilibrium. I understand balance as a pendulum. The lowest point where the pendulum would rest is the point of equilibrium. But in reality, life is movement. So it is a movement in and out of balance towards the two extreme points. When we go too far out of balance, the invisible forces of life. Why do I procrastinate? Procrastination comes from fear. We are fearful what the outcome of the action would mean to us emotionally. So oftentimes these emotions that we are trying to avoid are related to status. So how we are being perceived in society based on what we do, how we look and how we act. Procrastination is the result of fear, fearful action. When we procrastinate, there are different types of procrastinators. But the question is not so much why do I procrastinate, but what do I need to do in order to make it stop? Procrastination comes from fear. It is the fear of what it would mean to us emotionally, either the action, taking it in itself, and the implication for our status and perception in society and among our friends, or what the outcome would mean to us. How to stop self-sabotage. In order to find out how to stop self-sabotage, we need to find out what self-sabotage actually is and why it happens. Once we understand why it happens, we can properly address it. Positivity. Welcome to Incantation Nation. This is the first section, positivity. Why do we focus on positivity, and why is it important for your life? How will it benefit you, and what will you get out of it when you are positive? Positivity is already positive. That means you get out more what you put in order to get, be, and stay positive. And we are measuring the positivity that you are feeling with our revolutionary life success.app so that you can easily enter your data and track your progress on your path to being as positive as you can and have fun regardless. Positivity is already positive. That means that you get more out than you put in, and that is good. What do you need to put in order to be positive? Well, first we cut off everything that triggers negativity. Then we train our mind and emotions towards positivity. Then we resolve imbalances within ourselves so that we are not drawn into negativity because of secondary gains. But first of all, why are we negative in the first place? What does negativity solve? Negativity comes easy. It is easy to look at the negative, especially when we have trained ourselves or learned to look at the negative constantly, because this is likely what our parents or caretakers or other people that we surround ourselves with did when we grew up. But negativity can serve much more subtle purposes than just being automatic. Oftentimes we are negative because we surround ourselves with negative people and we do not want to upset them. So when we are positive, which is what they also want to be, we fear that we might offend them and in so doing lose the friendship, which feels scary because it is probably a source of connection, if not love, for us. So we can be negative because negativity helps us release stored emotional charges in our system. Get piled up. Negativity expressed as anger-related emotion may help us realize tension from holding on to emotions and sadness that make us feel connected to ourselves. Great. Here. Piece of content. Belief. Self-belief is ROI positive. That means that you get more out than what you put in to develop and maintain this self-belief. It is an emotional state of certainty that A, it is worth it to you, B, you can do it, and C, you can do it additionally to what you are already doing and nothing in your life is going to be negatively affected. Self-belief is an emotional state of certainty that we can achieve a certain outcome. Sadly, a lot of people, the vast majority I would say, know the state of being certain about something where they feel competent and know from experience and evidence in the past that they can do that and are going to be good at it and can handle whatever challenge is going to arise on the path of taking this action. Self-belief is a state of certainty that says, I can do anything that I set my mind to. When we believe in ourselves, we believe that we can do it and that we are going to be good at it. Beliefs orient ourselves. I think of it like a preconceived notion about what things mean in the world. A belief can be triggered by a sensation. A sensation with evaluation becomes perception. When the sensation is being related to ourselves, then it becomes a perception. Positivity, self-optimization. What does self-optimization mean? When you are optimizing yourself, it means that you take what you have and you make the best of it. In these times, where times go fast, we need to be getting on the strength that we already have. We need to be betting on the strength that we already have. I am a master of utilizing RPM and interventions as the tools that I teach in my free school community, Self-Optimization Nation. And this is not for people who say, hurrah, COVID is over. This is for people who have an existing work routine and desire to deepen it. What are we going to do? RPM, interventions, and accountability. So this is for people who want to seriously level up in 2025. And so I'm not necessarily so much about accountability and just tracking the habits, but I'm really about looking at your energies and finding a way how you can be in balance so that you actually can take all of the actions that you do. That's my specialization. That's what I figured out over many years. And this is what I've developed into a method also through my work with people to apply that not only to myself but also to other people as well. Because we are energetically affected by a lot of things. If you don't believe that, don't talk to anybody, and 3-4 weeks in, try to work as much as you work right now. You will see that you can't sustain that level of work when you're isolated. You're also going to say that when you're working only with your mind and you're not exercising at all, that this is going to be challenging for you. You're also going to see that when you don't express yourself and you don't share, and like your family goes on holiday for like 3 months, and you're going to be just by yourself and alone. So these things affect us. And oftentimes what I see, people are affected and they don't even know why. Oftentimes I see people are affected and they don't even know why that is. And that's what I'm here. That's what decoding human behavior is all about. Finding a way to see how do your behaviors, what is the root cause of your behaviors, and then how do you find a way to get into balance in your life. Because in my approach to personal development and changing your life, again, there are other approaches, right? You can follow David Goggins and run until your ankles break. That's a way. You can power through with willpower. This is different things for different people. My approach is and do what Joe Dispenza does. That also works. It really does. And get up at 4 a.m. and do bench press. That also works because there's all kinds of other side benefits. But my work is for people who say, okay, there are habits for people who are spiritually inclined, who are not afraid of psychedelic use, and who are spiritually inclined, who are Christians, who have affinity to the Bible, who are spiritually inclined, who have affinity to the Bible, who are not afraid of psychedelic use and do not judge that, and who want to do better in life and want to be very productive, who believe in business and providing value for other people, and who are generally extroverts and love to talk to people. That's typically the type of person that I'm talking to. That's the type of person that I'm talking to. Now, if you're not that, you're still welcome here. But I'm just saying this is made for these types of people. If you still get some value from it, good, but it's not made for you. But it's not specifically made for you. So that's what it is. But it's not specifically made for you then. That's what it is. So maybe you want to go and find somebody else who's exactly for you. And so yeah. But anyways, stick around if it helps. But anyway, if it still helps you, stick around if you want. Stick around. But anyways, if you still feel that there's value in that, then stick around. Then feel free to stick around. So I'm going to make you do things you don't want to do. So be energetically in balance. Because oftentimes, it is the way that we set up our life circumstances that affect us day by day. Because we can make a plan and we can really commit and we can drive it deep in our nervous system and make a resolution. But the thing is, if your life circumstances are still set up in a way where you're not energetically in balance, you will gradually go back to the old behaviors. It's just natural. It's like it must be so. It's an energetic law in the sense of in the same way as you need rest as a human. You can't argue with reality, right? You need rest as a human being. And so if you don't give yourself enough rest, your body will find a way to put yourself to sleep in a situation where it's acceptable and possible, where it's possible and acceptable, and then you will rest. And if you don't connect yourself with people enough, your body will find unhealthy ways to connect. And if the only way that you've learned is food or cigarettes or sexual pleasure outside of marriage, you know what I mean? If that's the only way that you really know and that your nervous system remembers, no matter how much you don't want to do this, no matter how much your resolution is, you will go back to that until you realize what the real cause of your behavior is, because that will heal in itself. That will heal you in itself, finding out what the real cause of your behavior is based on what I've just explained. And not what I'm saying, it's check it for yourself, let's get to the truth, but you will feel it in your heart, whether we've stuck truth or not, right? Whether we struck truth or not. The same as you can strike gold, truth can also be struck. The same way as you can strike a gold vein, the vein of truth can also be struck, right? And you feel it emotionally and intuitively when it makes sense to you. And oftentimes when you're I don't know, do I have low self-esteem because of it? It's yes. When you're considering it, then yes. Then you got it. Because otherwise you wouldn't be even wondering, do I do this because of that? I'm not sure. Yes, you will. Yes, you do. You perceive it already. You're just not so sure about it. But if it comes to your mind, it's most likely true. It really is. It's am I not taking action because this is some kind of weird way to stick it to my father, to tell him, I don't need to live up to your expectations. It's there's an element to that. If you think so, then if it comes to your mind, it's probably true, right? And so that's what I'm saying. And so we want to find out what's the real cause for our behavior and then how to change that. And the way that I'm changing that is not through any kind of techniques. It's to really change your life circumstances. And I understand that in this way I'm taking on one of the harder tasks, one of the more challenging tasks, because this is basically really where life changes, but also your life needs to change for you to really take consistently this type of action. And so you need to change your life circumstances. And a lot of that has to do with saying no to things that you currently say yes to that are not good for you, with cleaning up your life. And look, if that doesn't appeal to you, then go listen to somebody else. But that's what we do here, right? Then go follow somebody else. But this is what we do here. If you don't want to clean up your life, if you don't want to give up negative behaviors, if you don't want to give up all your impurities and confusions and all of that, if that's not what you want to do, then try something else then. But that's what we do here. And I'm not going to cater to you based on how you want to change. I'm going to cater to the people who accept the notions because of what we do here, because they understand that there's some truth in it for them. That in order to fix your life, you've got to clean up your life. That means you've got to stop these behaviors that you do right now that are not serving you right now. right? And live a life of cleanliness and clarity and purity, dedication towards something higher than yourself. If that doesn't appeal to you, if you think you can get away with all kinds of things, then go ahead, see how that works out for you, right? But this is for people who say, I understand it, I've gotten the lesson of life, I feel the pain and I feel the urgency right now to change. I am ready to give up all of these things. It's just I don't quite know if I can do this all at once. And here's the truth: you don't have to. It's like chill, long term, relax. We can get all of that done little by little and help you with all of that. Okay, after the interruption, we've used the anger for cleaning purposes. Now we're going to go back. Breakthrough serious articles. The second series. I'm not trying to be threatening, but you're going to help. But you're gonna help the willing. What? I'm not trying to be threatening, but you're gonna help the willing. I'm going to make you do things you don't want to do, face things you don't want to face. Helping families in crisis transform their lives in only 30 days. Ordinary people push to extraordinary results. The ability that we all have to face the most enormous challenge and turn it around. I do choose Paul, Neil, and Andrew as my partners to open a new branch in India. Do I talk to Catherine now or after the holidays? The happiest day of my life turned into my worst nightmare. Alright, okay, so we had all of that. I was married to my husband, Frank Aliotto, and at the end of our reception there was tragedy. My husband broke his neck in a swimming pool, and people were screaming, and I didn't understand what was happening. I told him he couldn't die, we just got married. They took his ring off him and gave me his ring to hold. He hasn't put it back on yet. I was supposed to be newlywed, I was supposed to be, planning my life. We were talking about kids, and now everything is unknown. I really screwed up our marriage. Here is your new wife, and you can't feel her when you hold her. What kind of life is this? Step 2. Confront your real issues. Do not quit on yourself. Topic: skydiving out of a helicopter. Metaphor for a breakthrough. Time apart assignment. Social energy replenishes. A test for Kristen to take care of herself, a test for Frank to become more self-sufficient. Think about it, how often do we do things similar to this dynamic, just out of a different degree of magnitude? New life, new commitment, new marriage commitment, taking a decisive and unforgettable action, celebrating life. Here you will have more inspiration to come up with something good when you are in a positive state. Alright, further forward we go in my commitment here. Skydiving out of a helicopter, metaphor for breakup, time apart assignments, social energy replenishes, a test for Kristen to take care of herself, a test for Frank to become more self-sufficient. Okay, keywords. Self-awareness for business leaders. As a business leader, self-awareness is key. In order to develop strong self-awareness, it is crucial to understand what you are aware of. These are trigger points because you need to be aware of those in order to discern what triggers you in a conversation and what is the other person. Clue: what triggers you that you perceive as an immaturity in other people, you always judge within yourself. It goes both ways. So the first point to be aware of are your trigger points, the psychological points inside of you that get struck when somebody tells you something in a conversation that you don't agree with or that you're not happy with. The question is, do you not agree with what the other person says because of what he says, or is it because something inside of you? The consequences unveil. It's a great word. Alright, so we put that into our vocabulary. Trigger points that tell you something about your insecurities, your strength, your disowned parts, your fears, your desires. When you learn to discern these trigger points, it is important to make yourself aware of those so that you don't fall into the trap of acting out unconsciously. Like a true professional, you are being aware of the trigger points inside of yourself. Get access to my free app, no login or sign up required. Learn how to decode your own behavior and gain access to the things and insights inside of yourself that previously you would have needed to hire a psychologist or a psychotherapist for. Now technology can help you. Self-awareness helps business leaders immensely. First, with self-awareness, you can be aware of what is going on inside of your employees as well as your customers. When you have a clear psychological understanding of who your customer is and what is going on inside of your customer, you can make strategic decisions and delegate them to departments in a different way, as if you didn't have this level of self-awareness. Self-awareness can mean that you are aware of your own motivations. Why do you do what you do? Unless you are aware of these motivations, you won't become aware of your customers' motivations either. It works like that. When you are becoming aware of psychological phenomena such as motivations, fears, desires, doubts, open questions, etc., these stop blending in with the usual streams of thought that you would usually experience, so they stand out. And you need this level of awareness in order to distinguish these phenomena in a client or employee. Only when you can discern them from the usual stream of thought and emotions that most people just unconsciously experience, you will be able to point them out in employees or customers as well. This is one practical application of self-awareness. Self-awareness also serves that you are aware of your own trigger points as well as insecurities, fears, desires, wants, and unconscious habits that somebody might use in order to influence you in a negotiation. So self-awareness also serves that you are able to prevent happenings that might affect you negatively. In order to be the leader that you know that you should be, you need to be able to have acute sensitivity to your own energies so that you can read your energy levels and can prevent mess-ups in this way. Common problems that happen when somebody does not have the self-awareness necessary to spot these energies and energetic movements within oneself are physical breakdowns, such as catching a sickness. It takes self-awareness and how strong your immune system is and how far you have been pushing your nervous system, and it takes acute sensitivity, sensory acuity, in order to know when to stop. Take rest so that you don't crash, which costs you not only time in the long run, but it makes you dwell in negative emotions which affect your work performance and your own self-belief long term. You want to be aware of your mental energy expenditure. Incorporate ways to rest your mind when your body is active. Team sports or partner sports such as tennis, golf, etc. help engage the body, relieve tensions, and let mental energy recuperate, because you're not using thinking, strategizing, and planning in these moments. Furthermore, it strengthens important relationships with other people that come in handy for you also. You want to be self-aware of your needs for connection. Now, as a manager who is interacting with people all day, you probably have not felt deprived of social connection for a long time, if ever. But people who do a lot of thinking work and solo work benefit from the self-awareness of how much needs of connection they have. You also want to be aware of your resistance towards irritation. When you feel irritated easily, your work performance drops significantly. You want to be aware of your consistent level of positivity that you can generate and maintain, because positivity is I positive in many ways. You want to be able to be aware of your level of belief that you have. Whenever you feel that you don't believe as much in the common cause or in your team, or even worse, in yourself, then this affects your work performance. And how you show up in this energy that you emit as a leader is crucially important for the team's work performance. Apart from your energies, you want to become aware of your own psychic wounds so that you can discern when something triggers you or what it is yourself and you truly caused by other people. You need to be able to distinguish if this is a you issue or an employee issue. Psychic wounds can make receiving and asking, delegating, communicating, having hard conversations that might involve rejection harder. It is like you sense an extra weight that you are carrying on top of energy expenditure in this situation that actually requires. Piece of content. Self-awareness as a leader is crucially important. You become aware of your inner wounds. All right, and so we write this now down into the good content. How psychic wounds affect delegation, capacity, and ability. To be aware means to be not in reaction. It means to have the choice how to respond. When you are aware, self-aware, you have the ability to choose between the responses that you are giving in a particular situation. Self-awareness means also to be aware of how other people are perceiving you, how they feel. Because you might have an intention of how you want to be perceived and come across, but it is how you really come across that matters. As a leader, you want to find the fine balance between not changing your behavior as much as to please the other person, or to offend her or him, to adjust your behavior to the person that you are talking to and trying to influence. Because, after all, your intention matters, but what matters even more is the outcome, the result of your influence attempts. In order to be a self-aware leader, you want to be aware of your inner world. You want to start becoming aware of what triggers you and be able to delineate that from the situation. You might think you are responding to a situation when in reality you are reacting to the past. In order to be self-aware and become increasingly self-aware, because it is a skill that can be trained and you can become better, it means more self-aware over time. Interestingly enough, self-awareness isn't itself is a concept, and unless you become aware of it, that means to be able to conceptualize it, delineate it, say what it means, what it is and what it is not, you won't be able to get better at it. You need a mental category in order to relate things to it. And you need a way to measure self-awareness. Awareness means to be able to distinguish or make out something from the stream of perception that you have. When you look out of a car window, you may see a lot of trees passing by. But when you are aware of how an oak looks like, you can become aware that an estimated half of the trees that you saw were oaks. But it requires the concept of oak, the delineation of what it is and what it is not, to be able to be in your mind, otherwise it is just a tree. So with this, as a leader, what you need to do is to become aware of how you can do this in only 5 minutes and improve your leadership skills in only 5 minutes. Good question. We want to become aware of, first, our triggers. That which we have an unconscious emotional reaction to, B, our psychic wounds. That which has caused an emotional reaction to us in the past and we react to current stimuli in a similar way. C, our unmet desires. D, our values. C, our rules of what it takes to meet these values. Introspection techniques for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, introspection has merit. But what we are trying to find, what is the outcome? Where in your psyche do you look and what for? Introspection serves the following outcome: to uncover that inside of you, which can be used to manipulate you. Because psychologically trained negotiators know your psychic wounds and your psychological weaknesses, they can easily be spotted if somebody is skilled by what you say, how and when you say it, when or when not you're going on a topic, when there's some avoidance, voice inflection, change at certain topics that are related to others. Psychological fears can be elicited. In order to be a good professional that is strong in negotiations and cannot be taken off course, you need to introspect and find the things inside of you that you are still insecure about. Unresolved childhood patterns and attachments. Once you know these key phenomena within your own psyche, you will develop automatically without practice, the ability and habit to pick up those psychological points in the person that you are trying to influence. I'm going to help you find those blind spots in yourself. Introspection as an entrepreneur is important when it is conducive to productivity and getting outcomes. Introspection needs to be delineated from rumination. Introspection is not indulgence for the purpose of self-connection or rest. Introspection as an outcome where we are looking inwards in order to find an answer and give us information that helps us make better decisions moving forward. So there's an introspection to find information from within about a current urgent situation, and there's introspection to find out information generally about yourself and to get the outcome of having explored all parts of yourself. You want to introspect in order to get to know all parts of you. This is what we do at our leadership retreat, where we elicit the necessary information and make it so that you remember it easily, which will help you tremendously in your decision making at work. You want to find out what psychic wounds you have that cause an emotional reaction in you. Second, what are the things that you don't have but that you want to have? What are unmet desires that are still open? What are inner conflicts that cause you energy? And how can you resolve those so that the stillest energy becomes available to you and can be utilized for maximizing your outcomes? Emotional intelligence for business owners. In order to become more emotionally intelligent, we need to first define what general intelligence actually means. Intelligence means the number of distinctions that you have in a given context. It comes from interlegere, which means to understand or to read between the lines. Emotional intelligence, therefore, means the number of distinctions that you have about a human emotion. When you can distinguish not only between anger and sadness, but also between the possible motivations where the emotion comes from, you are emotionally intelligent. It means that you can read people's emotions and furthermore adequately point towards the root cause of those emotions in yourself and others. The more you can read your own emotions, the more you can read them in others. Unless you can witness and abstract your own emotions, you won't be able to do so within others. If you don't have words or a distinction on something, you cannot spot it. It will just blend in with the rest of your behavior. So the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more you can spot subtle signs of emotions and thoughts, and in a real way learn to read other people's emotions and thoughts, so that you can infer from that psychological points that you can use for negotiation and influence. So in order to influence somebody, you have to know what already influences him. What influences him are the desires and the fears. Everybody has fears. It is just the extent to which they are conscious and how strong they are felt. When one exposes himself to a fear, the fear gets less until it is not noted as a fear anymore, but just as an emotional inconvenience. In order to influence somebody else, knowing his fears are important, so that you can hint towards those without threatening the other person, or find out what loss the fear pertains to, and then display the loss in a different way so that the same fear gets triggered, which leads to a heightened emotional state in the other person that makes them more susceptible to the influence because the conversation is relevant to the other person. Susceptible is also like a great word for my vocabulary. Exactly, susceptible. Great word. All right, further forward we go. Whenever fear of loss, less or never is involved in the conversation about something that is relevant to the other person, they will invariably pay attention or have to actively work hard not to. Their brains will pay attention to what you are saying. Apart from fears, desires are a good way to influence somebody. In order to influence somebody, we have to know what already influences them. Desire comes from deprivation. You don't desire anything that you already have, or perceive that you already have, or perceive that it will last forever, and that you surely have it and will have it always and forever. Desire is being sparked when we realize that we want something that we don't have. So there's the desire that can be sparked in two ways: showing and telling how the person doesn't have what he desires, letting him feel the lack, or showing and telling how much he wants something that he doesn't have. Depending on the conversation has been going, one or the other approach might be more effective. Either we show or tell the lack or the want. Self-reflection exercises for leaders. For self-reflection exercises for leaders, we need to first understand what are we reflecting upon. The self is the ego. Our egoic entity got formed when we were young. In order to have something, some entity to relate the world to, our egoic entity got formed. It is our base sense of identity, and the identity is the strongest force in the human personality. So what are we reflecting upon, you may ask? Great question. We are reflecting upon our shortcomings, our fears, our desires, and our goals. Our shortcomings. In order to be a competent leader, you need to be resistant in negotiation that you are not getting manipulated. In order to not get manipulated, you need to see what is inside of you that an opponent or negotiation partner could use against you to influence you. So in order to reflect, you can reflect upon yourself, your past, and that which you believe you are. Understanding your emotions as a leader. Many people are asking about understanding your emotions as a leader. The question is, what are they? What are they, and what are they? What are they, and what are they trying to accomplish? What is the outcome of understanding? The question is, what are they, and what are they trying to accomplish? What is the outcome of understanding their emotions? Many people, I believe, want to understand their emotions because it helps them to be more productive and to self-optimize. When it can only understand emotions, you will be able to anticipate so that I don't have these emotional outbursts anymore, some may think. Other may think to understand and learn to read one's own emotions serves in leading others, because only when you have a clear and varied understanding of your own emotions and your inner world can you also read others. So what kind of emotions are there? First of all, there's anger. A lot of leaders consistently get angry because anger is an emotional expression of self-assertion. And the more assertive we are as leaders, because we need to be, and only ones that are self-assertive reach high levels. Exactly. Piece of content. Exactly. Anger as a necessary part of life as a manager. Exactly. Piece of content. So what kind of emotions are there? First of all, there's anger. A lot of us leaders consistently get angry because anger is an emotional expression of self-assertion. Self-assertion. And the more self-assertive we are as a leader, because we need to be, and the only the ones that are self-asserting actually reach a higher level of leadership positions. So it is a self-selection. So the more self-assertive we are as leaders, the more emotional muscle of self-assertion is developed, which also means that we are more in tune with the energy of anger inside of ourselves. One emotional skill to master, again, here we go into the journal once again, February 25, 319. I realized that in isolation I am much more prone to second guess my choices because I am looking for fulfillment, which I perceive I don't have. So I'm second guessing whether this is really going to make me happy, period. So understanding one emotional skill as a leader is to let the energy of anger flow into the right actions and directions, and let the emotion of anger be expressed in the right ways and to the right people. So when the energy is uncontrolled and is being expelled for other reasons, or because we are not in control of it, it may be hurtful. Understanding one's emotions as a leader is very important. You need to be able to discern what are your emotions that are being rightfully evoked by the situation and by the person that you are dealing with, and what part of those emotions comes from a deeper psychic wound that you might be unaware of. The psychic wounds include emotional unavailability, emotional unpredictability, abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, etc. Each of these psychic wounds makes it likely that you have certain thoughts and beliefs roaming inside of you that were formed as a protection mechanism against this wound. It could also have been an overcompensation. So as a leader, we want to understand and remind ourselves of the trigger points that we have. For me, these are abandonment, being taken advantage of, and not being listened to. Understanding your emotions means understanding what part of the emotions is you and what part is your conditioning. So what is an authentic response in the moment and adequate to the situation, and what is a reaction to your past? There's a general guide to emotions that I have made that is available here. So in this video we're going to focus on the following: discerning whether an emotion is a reaction to something that happened to your past, or a reaction to a part within yourself, or whether the emotion is truly an authentic emotional response, so that you can identify whether it is a you issue. Because there's nothing worse than reacting emotionally inappropriately as a leader and having your team notice it. Now, we are all human, but the more professional we show up, the more this is going to work in your favor, because they know that sometimes have emotional reaction to it, whereas you don't. In order to find whether it is a you issue or an adequate emotion in response to the moment, we need to identify the you. Exactly. This is a great piece of content. So that they can identify whether this is a you issue, because there's nothing worse than reacting emotionally inappropriately as a leader and having your team notice it. Now, we're all human, but the more professional we show up, the more this is going to work in your favor, because they know that they sometimes have emotional reactions to it, whereas you don't. So in order to find out whether this is a you issue or an adequate emotion in response to the moment, we need to identify your psychic wounds, your unmet desires, your imbalances, and your fears. Psychic wounds. I'm just going over all wounds, and then you can download the free guide as a PDF in the video description. You can have it personalized in my free community, and you can see what are common thoughts that people with such a wound have. Next up, unmet desires. When we have unmet desires, it is a psychological function to react to whatever it is that we seek. The deprivation makes us pay attention invariably. Either we do, or we have to actively work against our focus being drawn in that direction. There are two ways to heal this: quench the thirst, or heal so that there's no deprivation in the first place. When you have unmet desires, you react to something who has something that you don't have. Depending on how harshly you judge yourself for not having it, or your lack of time, energy, or capability, you get what you want. You're going to dislike that person and either attack them, even if it's just in your own mind, avoid them, etc., or try to unconsciously lower their status because you unconsciously sense that they have a higher status than you, at least in this one specific area of comparison about this one quality. Exactly. Piece of content. This is great. A manager who is unhappy because of 20 pounds that he believes he has no time and not the energy to get rid of might react strongly to an employee going on a fitness vacation, if there's such a thing, right? Or he says, like, I'm going to go there with a group of guys, we're going to work out every day. Or a divorced manager who is bitter about the divorce might react towards an employee fighting for holiday and mention that he goes on a relationship or couples retreat, right? We're being triggered by seeing when somebody has done something that we don't have. We're being triggered when we are seeing somebody that has something that we think that we don't deserve. We're being triggered when we see somebody having what we believe we can't get and have tried in the past. We are being triggered by situations that remind us of the past pain. We are being triggered by situations that are related to the desires that we have. Personal development for entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs love personal development. Others believe that this is something that they should be doing. They live in the tyranny of should. Why is it that personal development is so sought after among entrepreneurs, and what is in it for them? Meaning, what does personal development serve, and why is it that especially entrepreneurs and not their employees are so interested in personal development? As an entrepreneur, the better you are, the more you get. And in order to get what we have, some entrepreneurs have started in order to find an outlet to get what other people want. Great piece of content. Piece of content. So, and you can be better in various ways. You can be stronger and more courageous. This is one of the outcomes of personal development. The less egoic fears you have, and the more you're able to distinguish when to push and when to pivot, especially when it comes to fears. Which fears are valid and which fears are imaginary. This is a true personal development skill set that entrepreneurs need to have. I personally am very cautious about legal protection and lawsuits. This also comes from the mindset that I'm generally shaky in my life circumstances, and a lawsuit on top of that would unsettle my life in a way that I believe that I am not prepared for. What is mindset? Your mindset is literally what your mind is set towards. Is your mind set towards fear or is it set towards success? You might say that sounds trite. You can be better as an entrepreneur in many ways. This is one of the outcomes of personal development. You develop real life skills that make you better and that help you leap better and be the leader that you are. Self-help advice for business owners. Self-improvement tips for leaders. When we talk about self-improvement for leaders, we need to consider what we are actually improving. Becoming a better leader through self-work. To become a better leader, you need to know yourself. Self-knowledge is important so that you don't just react to things. And I'm drinking some tea. These pages I've never read, I believe. Alright, further forward we go. There we go. Alright, becoming a better person through self-work. To become a better leader, you need to know yourself. Self-knowledge is important so that you don't just react to things in the environment and what happens to you, but so that you are present and collected, knowing exactly when to respond and how to each time. As a leader, it is important to take care of your energy. That's why my work is centered around and focused on energy. The outcome of my work is to increase your energy levels so that you have more energy to give to your team, leading to better results as an extension of it, and so that you have more energy to be able to funnel it into your work. So you do more, and with higher energy also come better, more empowering beliefs around abundance of energy, which in turn makes the things you deal with cost less energy overall. It is very interesting indeed that the belief alone can shift the experience of a situation. How heavy or difficult a situation feels or is perceived as depends on the beliefs you hold about whatever you're dealing with and what you're dealing with your energy levels. Great piece of content. How does your belief manifest? When you believe that you have not enough energy, you feel that you have not enough energy. And when you need new things, and when every new thing that comes up in your life or an unexpected thing that lands on your desk is going to be evaluated as being too much to deal with, although with a different belief you would have been able to deal with the situation easily. Moreover, the belief that you have not enough energy leads to the things that come up in your life to be undesired because it takes away from the energy supply that you actually need for something else. In that way, it is harder for you to find an empowering meaning in the happening. Exactly. Alright then, further forward we go. Moreover, the belief that you have not enough energy leads to the thing that comes up in your life to be undesired. Actually, let's break here.